So welcome to everybody. Thank you for coming and joining us. This is the last session of this year's PDC, and I hope everybody's had a great time so far. I know I've had an awesome time. Those of you I've met, thank you for spending time with me, and those of you I haven't, I'm here at the end, so feel free to come up and talk to me. I'd like to hope that if there was a prize today for the best coordinated panel that we might win, since we seem to have done pretty well with the with the kind of chinos and the blue shirts there, which is great. Not sure they give out. I beg your pardon?
Wrong color pants. I blew it.
Yeah, we've got a few people who didn't toe the line, myself included. So today's panel is on the future directions in mobile hardware, and really we wanted to give you an opportunity to pick the brains of a panel of industry experts to see where mobile devices are going. And I'm talking there about phones, about PDAs, talking about mobile PCs, tablet PCs, really anything that you would use when you're on the move. What we're going to do, I'm going to ask the panel to introduce themselves one by one, and then I'm going to start off with a couple of starter questions, because although I realize this is your time, there are some things I'm dying to ask these guys too. So I'm going to be mean. I'm going to take the mic. I'm going to ask a couple of questions, and then I'm going to throw the floor open to you. We have mics on either side of the aisle here, so feel free to form a queue at the appropriate time, and we'll get through your questions as quickly as we can. I've already asked, for those who came in late, we'd ask please no use of recording equipment in today's session. We are going to show some devices which are not released yet. So as a privilege as a PDC attendee, we wanted you to see those things, but we're not too keen on seeing those appearing on the web just yet. The other thing I was going to ask is, I've completely blanked. I can't think what the other thing I was going to ask was. There was some helpful suggestion from the audience there. You could definitely turn your phones off. I think there's probably more phones in this room than there are in the whole rest of PDC, certainly. So let's start by asking the panel to introduce themselves. I'll start with myself. I'm James Pratt. I work in the Mobile Embedded Devices group at Microsoft. I'm responsible for our outbound developer activities. That includes things like webcasts, technical articles, white papers, kind of any engagement that we do with developers at events like this, as well as figuring out our roadmap for developers going forward. So I'd ask the rest of the panel if you could introduce yourself, tell us who you are, who you work for, what you're responsible for, and I'd also like to know what your favorite gadget is. So let's start with Jeff.
Jeff Samitt, I work for Lenovo Group Limited. Product marketing management for ThinkPad. I'm a segment manager, which means my job is to kind of develop the product strategy for our ThinkPad X series, the ultra portable lineup. Usually that entails looking forward between 6 months from now and 3 years from now to what's going to be important to do in the ultra portable space. That includes our X30 series, our X40 series, as well as the X41 tablet device. Let's see.
Favorite gadget, Jeff?
Favorite gadget, X41 tablet.
There's a prize and offer for the first person working for an OEM who doesn't say their own product. So, Bert.
I'm Bert Keely. I'm architect of mobile PCs at Microsoft. I think in spite of all the excitement about handheld and pocket devices, I'm here to say that mobile PC is not an oxymoron. Where are we today in terms of mobility of PCs? Well, they're nowhere near as convenient as phones, and I think that part of what we have to do here is fully optimize the mobility of the PC. The visual device is not going to go away, and so that's basically what I do at Microsoft. I'm part of a small management team that decides which big bets we're going to take on mobile PC features, and I work with the devs and the PMs to do specs and devs to do a fair amount of inventing. So I have kind of a fun job. I get to dig around into the trenches and then come back up and make decisions. But I'm definitely focused on making the PC as mobile a device as I possibly can.
And favorite gadget, Bert?
So far, I'm not going to be very original. It's this X41T. It's fantastic.
Pay later.
So moving on to Jim.
Good afternoon. My name is Jim Mann. I'm the Director of Engineering for HP's iPad handheld development worldwide. I have responsibility for all the software development efforts at HP for iPad, as well as all the mobile operator certification and customization efforts that we do. I've been the leader of this team for about 6.5 years, and I was fortunate enough to be able to lead the team on our original iPad handheld product, the 3600. And we've been growing the product line ever since, and moving toward the traditional pen-based PDA products to more of the converged products now. Let's see what else. Oh, favorite products. Well, for me, of course, would be the new mobile messenger product, the 6500. I'll let Mike be the first one to be original and not think of his own product.
Don't count on it.
But for me, honestly, I mean, this I've been using it for 6 months or so now, and it really allows me, not only be more productive and efficient in my work life, but also my personal life. Some people feel very tied down to the office if they have an email following them everywhere. But it actually liberates me. I don't have to be at work, physically at work, or physically even at home, right, in order to get some work done. I be at my kids' soccer practices or my daughter's volleyball games or even a Rockets game, right, and get some work done on some of the downtimes at those practices or games. So it allows me to get away from the office, actually still get some work done. If I don't want to do the work, I just ignore the things that are coming in, or I turn it off, or I leave it somewhere else. So it actually liberates me to be able to get some things done, get to some personal activities I probably wouldn't be able to do otherwise. Mike?
Mike Boothe, I'm Senior Director of Product Management and Marketing with Motorola. Been in the wireless industry about 13 plus years. Last 2.5 have been concentrated on integrating the Windows Mobile software and OS into Motorola devices. So we've been doing that and basically head up the seamless mobility, as you may have heard from Motorola. So basically bringing seamless mobility into mobile devices where they can go in and out of Wi-Fi environments and into the wide area network seamlessly, not without dropping calls. So a lot of innovation around that. And my favorite device is the recently announced Q. So.
Well done, Mike. So moving on to, we have two luminaries from Microsoft on the end here as well. So maybe we can start with you, Jeremy.
Sure. My name is Jeremy Jacobson, and my microphone is not working very well.
Turn it on.
So maybe let's move on to Derek while Jeremy's getting himself hooked up.
Sure. Can you hear me? Hello?
Turn it on.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, usually power works well on electronic equipment. Derek DiPerna, I'm a Senior Mobility Technology Manager at Microsoft. I work with Windows mobile devices, and primarily I work with large mobile operators in the United States, as well as large OEMs in the United States as well. And my primary task is to get Windows mobile devices to market. I've been in the industry about 10 years, and I've been working with Windows mobile-based products for about 3 years. Favorite gadget, I guess I'm going to be a little bit different than my folks here beside me, but I'm going to go with the launch device, the Samsung.
That'll teach you to say Samsung. You want to repeat
Everybody
that one?
awake now?
The risk of lightning coming out and strike me. This Samsung i730, it's a newer release pocket PC with Verizon Wireless. EVDO speeds, very fast, quite productive, like all the other Windows mobile devices. So.
Great. And Jeremy, hopefully we have you now.
I'll give it a try. So my name is Jeremy Jacobson, and I'm in the Windows Mobile hardware team. I kind of have a split role. I'm part hardware architecture and part partner program management. So I dive quite deep with a number of our partners on bringing some of our key strategic devices to market. And I also look at things in the hardware platform that we need to focus on 2 or 3 years out that we need to start planning for in our software platform, try to drive issues early before many of our partners do.
and Jeremy shared something with me last night that he was involved in the hardware prototype that became, I guess what the audience knows as the SMT 5600 audio box device. So good job, Jeremy. Okay, so I'm gonna start with a question to get everybody going, and I'm gonna start with a tough one, I think, at least. And you know, you look at me as a mobile user. You know, I live and breathe mobile devices, and you know, I'm carrying around. I've got my tablet. I've got my I've got this little device on my belt here. If I can get the thing out, there we go. I've got that little pocket PC there. Then in my pocket, I've got a phone. So I'm carrying around a lot of mobile devices, and you know, I have different devices depending kind of what I'm doing, if I'm working in the office or if I'm, you know, on the move but want to be able to do email, etc. And this is what I call the Star Trek question. I'll tell you what I want. I want a device that I can just pop out. It's kind of small, you know, fits in my pocket, and I can talk to it, and I can say to it something like, "Hey, computer, can you tell me what the, you know, atmospheric makeup of Los Angeles is today? You know, what's the particulate count in the air?" And it can just connect me to this amazing kind of seamless array of computing power that can do anything I want. I don't really have to, you know, to kind of think about it. I don't have to type anything in. I can just talk to this thing, and it just does basically whatever the hell I want it to do. So my question, I think I'd like, if I may, to start with one of the guys here, maybe either from Motorola or HP. So when are you guys coming out with a product like that?
Well, there's true convergence going on today, and everybody knows, you know, everything is smaller. You see the tablet, and somebody would love to have a tablet that's, you know, this size, that has the processing power and ability to input. We're getting there, probably not as fast as anyone in the room would like to see it get there, but we are getting convergence. We're getting things that are getting, you know, smaller, yet more capable, more memory, more processor speed, better battery and talk and standby time. It's a matter of time. I mean, the ultimate software is probably be something like voice recognition or voice to text, text to voice. You know, you're in your car and this thing is just talking to you. You're talking to it and it's communicating. We're a ways from there, but today, you know, there are trade-offs that we go. So there's devices like that, you know, you want it to do everything. There's going to be trade-offs on screen size and input and battery size. Then there's others that you want to be pocketable. And those are going to have limitations on what you can do data-wise. They're going to be voice-centric versus data-centric. All of those are trade-offs that we go in and we design into the devices from the start that you know, fit a particular customer mode.
So, sorry, Jim, you had something to add?
No, I was just saying, you know, for me, if I was going to carry around a device like this, and sort of the ultimate thing, at least, you know, near term, would be voice to voice, right, which is translation. Deal with a lot of international, it's a very global, you know, development effort we're dealing with. Deal with a lot of international people. Language barriers are a big issue. You can speak into the device, translates automatically the other language, and vice versa. I think it would speed up communication and help alleviate a lot of issues. But following on with what Mike said, you know, regarding putting more functionality and featuring, being more feature-rich in these smaller devices, clearly convergence is happening and getting more powerful. But I still think you're going to see, you know, certain device for certain use and certain needs, right? You can't have your portable, you know, messenger device and be able to do rich PowerPoint development, things like that on it. You're going to need something with a bigger screen, better text input, and that kind of thing. So we're going to have more functionality and feature in these smaller devices over time, but you're not going to be able to completely replace, you know, bigger desktops or notebooks, that kind of thing.
See, but what I really want is to be able to say to this thing, "Hey, I need a PowerPoint on, you know, this month's figures. Can you go figure it out for me? I can go sit on the beach." I'm not asking much, right? So, Bert, from your perspective, coming at this from the larger form factor, I mean, do you see sense in that kind of convergence?
This may sound a little bit controversial, but from my perspective, the devices that these guys are carrying right now are already the devices that we need to accomplish that kind of futuristic vision. Well, what we're missing is user interface software, and today, you know, there are some interesting things that you can do with speech, but we haven't gotten all the signal to noise right. We haven't really gotten the command syntax right for people to naturally interface via voice. We haven't got the natural language processing that can go off and do the back-end work that's intelligent. So combination of, you know, more and more sophisticated services and better and better user interface could enable these kinds of devices to do the things that you're talking about. Now, you asked about with regard to a large device, and I guess, you know, there is this fundamental question of what physical size do you need in order to get the job done, and some jobs you need a bigger view for, and PowerPoint might be borderline in terms of how much area you really need. But certainly once you get, I think when you get to the web, if you want to have a good web browsing experience, you really want to have an eyeful. And then there are plenty of documents and other kinds of things for which you need an eyeful. So that's essentially the role of the PC, is for all of this hardware to disappear behind that big screen and make it as light and portable and convenient as possible. There, I think that in terms of the devices, we still have a long ways to go. We've had huge steps forward over the last 3 or 4 years, but we've still got a ways to go in terms of convenience, lightweight, last all day, all of that.
If I could jump in real quickly, sorry.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, I think what we're going to see is convergence, like everybody else said, with respect to the handheld device. But I think, for the most part, it's dictated by usage requirements, right? For the people that need to have access to information, don't need to do a whole lot of content creation, yeah, there's going to be a lot of convergence on the handheld side. But for those that need to do manipulate or create PowerPoint decks, need to create any kind of other document, who want to have a good viewing experience, like Bert said, you're going to continue to want the larger form factor design. And so I don't see a whole lot of convergence across the entire spectrum of mobile computing, but I do see it in the space that's traditionally handheld based. We'll see fewer of those, just one device.
Cool. So Derek, the other question I had around that, with this futuristic scenario where I pop my device out, we see it in Star Trek, and we see them go to any planet, and they have seamless, almost limitless wireless connectivity. And I know one of your areas of particular expertise is kind of cellular networks. So what then are the practical limitations from a network point of view of that kind of technology, and really just kind of shifting that huge amount of data to be able to get all that information on my device?
Yeah, there's a number of things that we're investing in pretty heavily now as far as network design, antenna design on the device. These form factors getting real small. Mike has a pretty good example of one. Inside these form factors, there's multiple antennas, Wi-Fi antennas and so forth, as well as the traditional cellular voice data and whatnot. There's a big investment in how the cellular networks can be properly managed to talk to the Wi-Fi networks and so forth. So you can turn on your device if you're in your home, it connects up to your Wi-Fi. If you're outside of your home, that connects up to a cellular data connection. And those types of things are still being invested in now. We're not getting it right today, but we will be getting it right soon. But the context of one user being able to open it up and having their device talk to the network that they choose is very difficult one to work with. And especially when you take battery power, device management into play, how does the operator really balance that with the OEM is what we're trying to get at now.
Okay. So you're saying that that kind of network convergence will come over time, but right now there are just practical limitations in terms of just having so many different radio signals going to the device, being able to receive them cleanly, and to be able to receive all those signals and have the device run for more than 3 seconds.
That's right. Yeah, one of the big things is to reduce RF interference. So having these operate all simultaneously at the same time is a very big challenge for some of these devices.
That's interesting. So I'm going to put everybody on the spot real quick, and I think we should close down this discussion and then open up for questions from the audience. So if you have a question, please begin to make your way to the microphone while I ask my on-the-spot question. So James's dream device, how many years until we see a device like that? I want to go down everybody, get everybody's feel. So let's start with you at the end, Derek.
Want to repeat what your dream device is?
So it's got to basically never run out of batteries. I've got to be able to talk to it. It's got to be able to connect to some computer in the sky that knows and can do everything, no matter how vague my command is. And wherever I take it, it's just got to work. It doesn't matter if I'm in a cave, if I'm trapped somewhere, whatever. All those things.
So I think there's multiple factors there. Battery life is something that everybody's working on, and we're getting better. You see that even with the Windows mobile device of 3 years ago to the ones today. We're getting better by the day. Your
on the spot. Give me time.
Network in the sky, I think we could do that probably in the next year or so, network in the sky.
Okay. So you're saying I'll be able to come back PDC next year, I'll have my device, and I'll be able to go. Okay? So that's a bold
No, it takes
prediction.
an ecosystem of people to do that.
Of course.
But the technology is there.
So Derek has gone with a rather bold one here. Jeremy, can I ask you the same question? How long?
Well, I already have it working in my garage, but I'm trying to work out the commercialization process. But all told, you probably have some of the biggest problems are probably on the horizon of about 7 years. We're getting there with with speech. We're getting there with some of the improvements in memory technology as well as processors on the power side. Batteries are getting better. So I would agree with Bert that a lot of the issues that need to be solved are on the hardware side are going, and the software is probably on the horizon of the
So you're
7
saying
years.
about 7 years. How about you, Mike?
Probably more on the, I'll split the gap here, but probably, 3 or 4 years, I think the hardware's coming. Batteries are, probably the slowest moving technology. One of the biggest things we're going to face is in the partnership side. So when you go and you talk to a Singular or Verizon or any of the big operators and you say, we're going to go and, by the way, we're going to put Wi-Fi in this, and we're going to take 30% of your minutes off of your billing cycle. We're going to take that away. So the partnership side is pretty hard, where they're going to have to approve the devices that actually enable you to roam off of their network. And those are difficult things for people to get over. So from that, I think, those are coming, and somebody's going to do it, and then everyone will follow.
That doesn't matter, right? Because Jeremy's building it in his garage. So
Somebody's got to follow. But I think, you guys, the people in this room are going to be instrumental to getting this to where we need to be. And you're the people that are going to make the software that makes all that happen.
So Jim, we got 1, 7, and about 3.5 so far. I hope somebody's writing this down because I will check these guys up later.
Well, I'm going to have to go much further out. So to get the James Uber device here, I think we're talking decades out, right? I mean, if you want unlimited battery power and you want voice recognition, it's been the year of voice recognition, speech recognition for 20 years, right? And we really haven't gotten there yet. So I don't see us getting there, really definitively anytime in the next decade. So I think we're talking decades out before we get James' device.
Thank you, Bert.
Device now, user interface, 5 to 7 years. Interplanetary coverage, I'm not going to.
Shoot. Good. And here on the end?
I think the voice recognition technology is good today, not quite there where it needs to be, so that's probably about 4 years. But then the battery is the big nut. With increasing demands on performance as well as the connectivity, batteries are being more and more taxed. I don't see battery technology keeping anywhere near pace with the performance requirements. So I'd put that 8 to 10 years, but closer to Jim's estimates.
Okay. So we've got an interesting spectrum there between 1 and sort of 20 to 30 years. So we'll start checking off from PDC 06 and we can count Derek out on the end. We'll work through the panel and hopefully at some point in the future when we're all old and grey we can meet and discuss who was right and have a good old laugh about it. So we've got some questions from the audience. We've got this gentleman up here on the left.
Hello. As a baby boomer who refuses to accept being chained to reading glasses all the time, I love these smaller, more portable devices because, of course, you can put them in your pocket. But what am I supposed to do about reading those small screens? Can you address what you might be doing hardware and or software-wise now, and also toward the future, what you might provide even, with like Bluetooth eyeglasses or something?
Interesting. That's a great question. And for me, I want to start maybe with Jeremy over there. Who's thinking about display technologies and things like that in terms of the hardware. So, what are we going to see in terms of resolution, in terms of clarity of screen, ease of readability, as well as accessibility features?
Well, this is actually the first time I've heard that somebody had a problem reading a screen. No, I totally hear your message there loud and clear. There are, in a lot of ways, a lot of devices are moving in the other direction, right? Which is kind of a struggle. You get you're trying to pack more information on a screen, and you're trying to get more pixels and smaller resolution, and that's definitely a real issue. As we look at things like Bluetooth eyeglasses, or whatever, my ideal is someday I want the contact lens that has the display, the Terminator style heads-up display. But in the short term, if you're looking at something like if you're looking at something where you want to take a very small device with you and you want to read high resolution, you want to read large documents and you don't want to worry about eye strain, the thing that I would like to really see is where you can walk up to a display in a public forum and then use that as your auxiliary display. Or you may be you're attending PDC and they got these great 42-inch plasma screens somewhere. You walk up to it, device interacts with it, and now that's your display of choice. There are also a number of partners that we have that are showing eyeglass forums, both monocular and binocular views. You do get, they're coming right now. Their primary use cases are for watching movies, things like that. But you can really see the trend where, 3-5 years out, you could see some really nice commercial devices that you could use for a larger view.
So I think in summary of that then, we're already seeing people investigate the kind of Bluetooth eyeglass. There's potential there for devices to interact more seamlessly with screen technology. So if there's a larger screen nearby, you can just seamlessly kind of connect into that and use it, assuming nobody's watching ESPN or something like that. I can imagine a few bar brawls maybe starting without a critical moment in a game. Okay, that's great. Well, I see we have another question up here. Actually, I think this lady here has been waiting a while patiently, so let's ask that one.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, whatever. So I'm wondering a little bit about how you guys are working and integrating with Vista, because I know that HP was working on the Athens PC, concept PC, and where the device would be able to dock with it, and also like if you came near it, it would be able to automatically sync. So I was wondering if you guys were already, I know the Microsoft guys were already looking into it, but some of the portability and being able to go ahead and do that and connect wirelessly to each other.
So are you talking about just synchronization between devices?
Synchronization, or even I guess kind of what he was talking about, auxiliary display as well.
Right. So synchronization wirelessly, we can do today, right? I mean, that's possible today for Bluetooth primarily. As far as being able to connect to other devices, sort of in an ad hoc manner or in a manner that Jeremy was talking about to display, it's absolutely something we've been looking at for a while. I think there are a few technical hurdles that have to be overcome as far as transmission speed for wireless. I think some things like UWB and some things will help address, like display resolution issues there. But I think there's also standards and ecosystem kind of things that have to be developed as well. So you have to get standards worked out, so you have some interoperability between different display types of computers, and then also you got to have people motivated to be able to develop these types of products that they think they can sell in sort of an auxiliary or accessory type of way as well. But I agree with Jeremy. In the next 5 years, I think we'll see a lot more devices connected to each other in sort of an ad hoc manner or in a manner to be able to see more of your display on a bigger screen.
Was that like the Bluetooth conference I went to in 1998? They had like the fridge connecting to the PDA, connecting to the microwave, and all that stuff.
So that's not so far-reaching. We have a group within Motorola called Connected Home. So we have 4 business units. One of the business units is Connected Home, of which my group, Seamless Mobility, interfaces in them. And it's totally about how everything talks to everybody. Intelligence everywhere, how your car talks to your home when you pull in. You're listening to a song, it will then be conveyed to your home stereo. You pick it up right where you were. You're watching TiVo, you go on mobile, and it shows up on your device. These are things that sound far-fetched today, but they aren't that far out. These are things that are on the horizon. You'll start seeing them at least in demos coming up in the next year or so. So these are things that are real. They just need, like everything else, chicken and egg. How are we going to get it out there? So I think we're
Derek,
I'd like to comment on that. One aspect is near-field communication, bringing your phone up to a computer, having the display start working between. But the other aspect that should be considered that we can do for the most part today is web services connectivity. And you see this by companies like Orb.com that are broadcasting your Media Center Edition content out over the web to your phones, your smartphones, pocket PCs, and they're streaming your, as you would say, TiVo content down. That I see as a very near-term type of approach that we can do today, and just takes, again, an ecosystem of folks and business models that make sense, that people can make money to make that work. So it's another way to think of it.
Great, thanks, that's awesome. So let's move to the left-hand side where we've got I'll try and load balance, maybe not differentially, but just the 2 cues here. So on the left-hand side.
I've got kind of a form factor question. To contrast the first guy, I want everything to be a lot smaller because my eyes are still pretty good. And if you look at what's coming out sort of lately in devices, there's a whole lot of PDA style looking things with the HTC Universal and the Motorola Q and all that stuff. And on the pure phone front of things, there's a few candy bar style things, but not a lot on the flip form factor. And I think form factors of devices are probably as religiously debated as programming languages or something. But I'm personally a big fan of the flip thing, and the only thing that was really gonna come out for that was the MPX, I guess, from Motorola, and that never really made it out, and it looked really promising. So I'm wondering, are there, any sort of developments on that front towards recognizing that some people just want a powerful phone that's small and can fit in their pocket, and then maybe I'll carry my PDA thing, in my bag when I want to do Wi-Fi.
A bit like me with 9 different devices in different pockets. So let's ask Mike the question there. I think specifically there are some questions there about the Motorola line of flip phones. You have 200 and 220. So just get interested on your thoughts on that as a form factor.
So I agree with you. There's probably as many opinions as there are people that want a form factor. We go out and primarily we have customers, and the customers are operators, and we'll go and we work with them. You also have the ability of what can you do with the device. So we look at this and say it's got to be a certain way. You have to have the text input. There'll be some people say it doesn't do enough, and I want a touchscreen, and I need a pocket PC device. A lot of those are based on the OS. So our form factors are all, should we say, design constrained by what our operators want. We're being asked to do more flip phones, so we're looking at doing flip smartphone devices. Those are things that we'd like to do, kind of evolution of 200, 220, whatever's next. The MPX was a unique form factor that you loved it or you hated it. We found out that it was probably not going to be the best device as we came out with it.
Dude, it was black and shiny. I loved it.
Yeah. So,
My shiny
but
thing.
I don't know if I'm answering your question as far as there are different form factors for everyone. You are somebody who wants a small, very pocketable device. There's other people who want larger devices that they can read. You have to make decisions on where you think the market's going and where you're going to be, and those are all customer.
Yeah, I mean, that seems to be sort of the general trend is is the industry deciding that we're going to make the one perfect device, that handles everyone's need, or is there going to be this recognition of, well, you can either have a great phone that's a crummy PDA or a great PDA that's a crummy phone, so why not have 2 devices? So do you see that going, the recognition that you're going to have multiple devices, or are you still trying to make
today, and I'll probably get shot by a couple people here, when you look at a Windows OS, and the device isn't really a consumer-oriented focus today, right? It will get there when it comes to more media-focused. So it's more prosumer enterprise-focused. Those people are more concentrated on data. They're more concentrated on a tablet kind of ID with a full QWERTY keypad and interface. Whereas a lot of consumers, when they get a hold of a smartphone, don't know what to do with it. I mean, I think we're the exceptions here, and more, when you have an IT department to support you and all, it's a lot easier to get in and do your email and realize the potential of the device. A consumer takes it home, typically is looking for, a phone that might have PIM functionality. They aren't really ready to start doing email over the air. And so smartphones are slower to pick up, where we think we make a bigger bang in the enterprise prosumer with a more data-centric device.
Can I sharpen that question for the? I'm going to sharpen that question for perhaps for the benefit of a few other people in the room. When can I get a Razor with Windows Mobile software on it?
So, boy, there's been rumors of that device out there for a while. The big constraints on that, of course, it's twofold. One is the architecture that it takes to support Windows Mobile is much larger than it does to do general GPRS, Edge kind of functionality. So the device grows inherently from that. The battery life by running the extra processor and the additional memory makes the device grow even bigger yet. So you get to a point where it isn't Razor anymore, it isn't a V3. It becomes it becomes a 220. So that device exists, and it's called the 220. We're trying to take those design cues, make it skinny, put it in Q, but you see too, this has to be a good data device. So we are able to put a larger battery, larger displays, keypad. Those are the constraints that you put on a Razor that wouldn't fit into that device. So it wouldn't be Razor if we came out with it with Windows Mobile. Trust me, we've gone down that path.
And as Derek had something to add there on the end.
Yeah, real quick, just to respond. If you put on the operator's perspective and you look through that, one thing that's driving form factors right now is email, obviously. All the operators need messaging. They're being requested to support messaging, and they want to make money off messaging. I think what you'll see in the next 12 to 24 months is really operators trying to get the media story correct. And if they get the media story correct, then you have a messaging device, which is a high input device with a QWERTY keyboard, and a media device that could be a high output device that could just push out either audio or video or combinations of both. And then I think you'll start seeing those form factors shift towards phone-based form factors for consumers rather than full QWERTY-based form factors. But as Mike said, the operators are asking for QWERTY now, and that's what they're getting. They're getting a lot of very good QWERTY designs.
So I think it's safe to say that at the moment the kind of operator stroke business requirements to some extent are driving the types of handsets that we're seeing. Okay, great.
If I can add one quick
Oh, sure,
point.
Jeremy, yeah, please
So
dive in.
if you look at just roadmaps for chipsets too, I mean, a Razor-like device, will be possible in the next couple of years, just from evolution of chipsets. So that could kind of happen. The other part about the form factors, I personally don't think that there is one right form factor. From a purely Microsoft perspective, I'd like you to have N devices. But there's the piece of it besides just that, they have different targeted purposes. Phones are also fashion devices. Just like, not everybody thinks that khakis and a blue shirt looks great. People buy different clothes, people buy different phones. Different form factors will appeal to different people. And so there will always be this debate of, is there one right form factor? And you'll always see new and innovative ideas around it.
And Jeremy, can I ask you to put a range on N, as any good mathematician would?
Well, I'd like the stock to go to 600, so let's say...
Good stuff. Okay, well, let's take a question from this gentleman on the right here.
Yeah, this would be a question about future screen technology. A few years ago, IBM and Xerox were talking about the printable screen. Is there any likelihood or possibility of me getting a tablet I can fold up, put in my pouch, carry it into a room like this, flip down the little table, open it halfway, write on it, go to a desk, flip it out to an 8.5 by 11, and have a full function PC? Or am I dreaming?
No, I think it's going to be a little longer term than what you might have been led to believe by some of the hype in the last couple of years. I think most of what you're referring to is OLED technology, organic light emitting diode. It's out there today. It's available in some of the devices that you guys are working on now. In a larger form factor like mobile PC that I work on, it's a tougher proposition because you got to worry about life cycle. The life cycle of a PC is a lot longer than a handheld device typically. We have an aging effect that occurs on OLED that we have to deal with still. There's also cost. Nobody's producing OLED screen technology in mass volume at the size that we need to deal with for mobile PC. So the cost is, last I saw, was like 3 or 4x what a typical mobile screen would be. And by the way, mobile screen is usually number 1 or number 2 in terms of cost components on a PC. So when you look at that, I think it's a little longer term. I think OLED, 4 years or more from now. Bert might have another idea as well, though.
Well, the OLED displays are being built on the same kind of substrates as liquid crystal displays. So the foldable part doesn't really get achieved even by OLED. Now, you do have a little bit more flexibility in terms of having flexible substrates in both of these technologies. But I think when you talk about being able to fold it up, that's a whole different level of flexibility and kind of, softness than is possible with these kinds of displays. The only technology that really fits in there, and it is a very interesting technology, is the e-ink technology, where basically this is a reflective display so that it doesn't have to have a light guide system as part of it, and it's just turning balls of toner over. Okay. So I think you can see some consumer devices that are using e-ink technology today. There's a Sony book reader. It's got about a 1-second refresh, and that's way off the mark for interactivity, right? That's basically you can turn a page. But over time, that technology, it's a new technology. It's coming on quickly. So within 5 years, it might be in a dramatically different place. You might be able to have color. You might be able to have much faster switching. There are also some other micromechanical devices that people are playing with. That's the kind of thing that I think might get you to the point where you can have this roll-up display or fold-up display.
Yeah, I know the question was about tablets really, but I think for handhelds, you'll start to see those types of flexible plastic types of displays appear in handhelds before you will in larger sizes. talked about earlier. And one of those, whether it's OLED, eventually on a substrate that could be more flexible or bendable, or if it's on a bistable technology like e-ink or something else. Philips is working on that, AV Labs is working on that stuff. I think you'll start to see that sometime in the next 5 years, or maybe on a sub-display or something first, and then after that you'll start to see it in something that could actually be skinnable across the whole device. So effectively your whole device becomes, you can mold and bend it around different form factors, and you wouldn't necessarily have to be flexing it, but you can bend it around certain different form factors. And that may also help address some of the readability issues if you can now use the whole surface, not have to have a bezel around it and so forth. Now you can actually make the display a higher resolution and make your character as well.
Okay, so probably the kind of PDA form factor before we see it in the tablet form factor, a number of different essentially kind of machining or rather production techniques are kind of underway, and we're looking probably 2 to 5 years, I think I heard, in terms of time frame for that kind of screen. Okay, good, thank you. So let's go over to the left-hand side here. This gentleman's been waiting patiently.
G'day. So the question is primarily for the OEM guys, and it's around supporting Windows Mobile as a platform. If I got a tablet PC in my bag and we come out with a new version of tablet PC OS next year, I can stick it on my tablet. Right? We come out with Windows Mobile 5, I can't stick it on my old iPad easily. I can't stick it on my 220 easily. Right? And there's a real problem for me. Because otherwise I'm going to keep on buying devices. So is this a hard problem for you guys to solve? Hard problem for you to solve? Is it a strategic decision to make us buy more devices? And if it is, that's okay. Is it because the operator's the customer and we're not really the customer? What's the reasoning for that?
So let me address that first. So today and in the past, most of our iPads have been upgraded with the new OS. Right? So, for instance, our HX 2000 series, we're upgrading from the old operating system to Windows Mobile 5, and we actually released that code to production now, so you'll start to see the upgrades on the web soon. We don't do it on every device, and some of what you mentioned are the reasons, right? Some are technology barriers. So Microsoft likes to add lots and lots and lots of more stuff, right, which grows the size of the ROM requirements that we have, and in some cases it's just impractical to be able to take that 10 pounds of stuff and squeeze it in a 5-pound bag that we have. So there are technological issues that we sometimes encounter. In other cases, there are business reasons for doing it. If we don't think that the upgrade, take rate is going to be very high, it's not worth our investment to go do it, and so forth. And then as we move into the converged space, certainly the operators have a big say, right, in what we upgrade and when we upgrade it and how we upgrade it, and going back through certification and so forth and so on. So I think as we move to Windows Mobile 5 and we have image update and so forth, it's going to be a lot easier for us to provide updates to the next operating system than we have today where we have to reflash an entire ROM. So I think in the future it's going to get a lot easier on these types of devices than it has been in the past.
So I don't know if either Derek or Jeremy can share a kind of 2-minute explanation on what image updates is and what benefit that brings.
Sure.
Jeremy, would like you to
so what image update basically does, the way that old Windows Mobile software bits were set up, you had basically one monolithic image. And to be able to update the device, you pretty much had to wipe what was on the device and reflash with an entirely new image. Image update is a way where you're able to basically update individual files. And if we do a new release and there are actually new files created, those are able to be added into the empty spaces in the existing flash. So it's more of a way of breaking it up into more of a general file system and allowing you to do easier, smaller updates, which on top of just being able to do upgrade from Windows Mobile 5 to Windows Mobile 6 or 7 or whatever you're looking at there, it also makes it easier to do things like patches to target features towards specific devices, etc.
Just that.
Okay, so definitely we've seen Flash come down 50% a year or so in cost, or you get twice as much Flash for the same price basically. Cheap is an interesting adjective. As a percentage of total BOM for a device, it can still be quite large. And so there's kind of a decision on how much flash is appropriate for this time frame, for this margin, to make a device compelling. So, but you can see really interesting things in the market. I hate to mention competitor products, but like the iPod Nano, you can buy additional 2 gigabytes of storage from the 2 to the 4 for $49. I mean, flash is definitely coming down in price. You can buy multi-gigabyte SD cards for a sub-$100 range. It's definitely, we're kind of on the verge of this potential explosion in available storage, which will definitely make it easier to both from a Microsoft perspective, add lots and lots of stuff, and also just to make it easier for a consumer to add lots and lots of stuff.
So is there in the OEMs that we are your customers as well, but you look after us as far as platformness of the mobile?
Well, so you had said, so I don't talk to operators very often, but if I just think about kind of the business model of subsidized devices, an operator doesn't want you to buy a new device every year either. Right?
So let me add to that, right? So that's partially true, right? And we can't future-proof devices to the point where I throw as much memory on it as you need it because one, cost, and that may be coming down, but I don't think anybody here doesn't have battery time on their minds, right? And so the more memory I put in there, the less battery time I have. The other issue I have is I put it out there, and the operator would love to just upgrade it and have you have the latest software and keep going on their network. They still have to approve that, right? So it has to go through their approval process. The other thing that we have is there's probably not an industry that's moving faster than the telecom industry. So every year there's new features and new functionality that are enabled in hardware, not just in software, but that need to be enabled. So keeping a device active the whole time would take their resources to approve software on an old device that may not enable some of their new ARPU generating features. So therefore they're asking for new devices. And from my standpoint, I don't really get paid when Microsoft updates a device. So there is some aspect of I need to sell phones to make money. We don't go in and try and make them obsolete. That wouldn't be beneficial to anybody. You wouldn't buy a Motorola device. You'd buy somebody who enabled that. But the real outlier here is there's an operator, there's an approval process, and the market's moving very quickly.
So I think one of the themes that I heard there is that to some extent mobile hardware yet isn't a kind of commodity in that it requires special skills really to kind of build that hardware out. So when I think about, for example, my PC, I have a media center PC at home. Just before I left to come down to PDC, much to the chagrin of my wife, I added a new tuner card into it. So I was able to add features and add functionality because PCs have been around for 25 to 30 years, and the architecture there is very stable, very well understood, and we're not quite at that place yet. And if I think about upgrading a PC 25 years ago, it was a much more kind of complex proposition. And certainly if I popped open Mike's Motorola Q or one of my devices with a torque wrench at the moment, I would probably destroy it. So I think there's built as a theme of kind of commoditization going through in terms of the hardware, and we're just not at that place.
Just 2 cents more. The other thing, PCs are much more scalable, easier to scale. Mobile devices are, here's a device, it's very, very, very price sensitive. So, making it future-proof and putting additional or scalability into it is also would be a negative from an OEM trying to sell it in.
Well, you also need to know about XDA, developer.com. You can put cooked ROMs and all sorts of stuff on your device today. You don't have to wait for the carrier.
It's not an Apple stuff, right?
Right.
People cook up HTC ROMs that don't get like that off the go to Sunny Raw.
Right.
So it's not an Apple.
No.
A little bit more different from the operator. How the ones that get to ship. So it's just ROM.
Yeah, let me comment on that because I obviously work with operators very closely, and over the past few years, we've taken it from 3 or 4 years ago where it was, let's say, a Motorola device that maybe could be upgraded in the store once to fix a couple of bugs or something like that. So something that's very strict to a device that's extensible not only in programming but also upgradable so you can upgrade. The operators come a long way in 3 years, and in operator space that is a light step ahead. But there are a number of factors within the OS that you really need to consider as an operator by operator basis. For instance, you have one operator that might have E911 happening in one manner, and another operator has a special tweak to make it happen in another. And that adapter that goes into their network has to be fixed onto the device. So you can't have a generic ROM that's put onto the device because it won't interoperate with drivers well. They're going to get calls. They're going to get fines by the FCC. There's a lot of things that go into that. So we're getting.
Explain E911 for the benefit of the audience.
Oh, E911 is an emergency 911. That's if you dial your cell phone, at least in the United States, you dial 911. You say, hey, I just turned over my vehicle and I'm down in a ditch. They can pinpoint locations for the EMS crews or the emergency crews that come. And that's a standard that's, I think, government enforced as of last year or sometime.
For the last couple of years.
And it's a very important thing because if, let's say, a Verizon or Singular doesn't get a 911 location and they're supposed to support it, then they could very well be susceptible to a lawsuit of some kind.
And something even simpler is just like preferred roaming list. You get a generic load, you get a roaming list. Next thing you know, you think you're on network when you come here to LA and you're roaming and your bill, you go back and it's a few $100 where you thought, you had nationwide roaming. So there's some things that somebody who's, hacking up a piece of software so that you can get the latest upgrade might not take into consideration as you load it on your device.
Yeah, we are working on it. Image update's going to help, and there's areas in the ROM that maybe can be touched independent of the radios and other things that are considerations for the operator. But it is a very iterative process that we're going through to get the operator to that point. But it's not going to happen overnight.
An image update is super cool. We used it internally, as you know, like dog foods products. So with Windows Mobile 5.0, we used that internally to kind of upgrade devices, which was a huge step forward for people who dog food devices, because I wasn't losing all my information by reflashing my device. Every single day as every build came off the build server. So that was that was certainly for me a glimpse into the future that you described, where the devices are more upgradable. So let's take the question from this gentleman here on the right.
Yeah, I guess mine has to do with more, what is the reality in the time frame of making, like say a PDA or a mobile device our only device, like a single device, where basically you're wandering around with it, you're doing your stuff, but then you come home, you plug it into your base, which is connected to your monitor, your keyboard, your whatever else mods you can attach to the base. What's the reality of that? I know the speeds aren't quite there yet, but they are. I mean, the hardware is getting better and better. What's the chance of actually having the software catch up with it and have an actual, where you can plug it in and have something like a decent interface on the bigger monitor?
For the needs for the people in this room, probably pretty far off. For the needs of somebody who is an executive or somebody who deals with email or maybe wants to open enclosures and things, that's there today. I mean, those things happen today. It depends on your needs. Again, the people in this room, that's probably pretty far off. If you have just simple needs for email and opening enclosures, forwarding enclosures, maybe editing them, I mean, that functionality is there today.
And you have docking stations that don't require another machine to go through to actually display all that?
That's probably lagging. So the accessory side of it's lagging, and again, it has to do with adaptation or adoption, where people just haven't gotten to the point where this is my only device, and therefore I'm going to need a docking station that has a Bluetooth keypad and maybe a monitor that plugs into the docking station. Those things are coming, and it's going to be more and more, demand on them, and people really using these devices as their only device to drive that kind of development.
So let's take the question on the left here.
I want to know about device interoperability with respect to, say, this is one device that needs to be controlled using some, say, remote control or something like that. I have a mobile device, Windows mobile device, or any mobile device. I want to know whether any research or any software research is going on to make the interface that is available for that device to be exported when I go near to that, from that device to my mobile device, so that all those controls appear in my mobile device, so that I can operate that from my mobile device.
Are you talking about specifically kind of within the home and controlling a parts
exactly.
of home?
All devices, not only this one. This is an example. So air conditioner or anything, DVD player. So when I go near to that, that should be able to export. Or this should query that what are the interfaces you have, and that should give the interface, and I should populate my buttons or controls, whatever it may be, with that, and my mobile device should be able to control anything.
So that's a really interesting question. So really, I think what you're asking is, already with mobile devices, you can get software to control the home. You can get software to be an IR remote control. But you're talking about more a framework where you can, where essentially each device exposes the interfaces
Exactly.
that you can kind of program and control on it. That's a great question, and I'm going to open it up to anybody who wants to talk about that, because that's. Stop it. This guy gets a round of applause, well done.
So I can touch a couple points on that. So if we look at it very simply, just from I want to control one television, you know, there are a couple devices that have been shipped that have remote control capabilities. You know, and this being one of them. So you know, you can control your television. You tell it which television you have. There are all kinds of problems when you look at trying to make it more extensible, and that there aren't really any industry standards around lots of remote controls. So it really takes a techie person almost to be able to take a programmable remote control and make it control their Toshiba VCR, their Samsung television, and other pieces of the home. My mom still can't figure out how to hook the red cable on this side to the red cable on this side. So there's some challenges there as well. If you start to look at some of the stuff that Microsoft is doing around like media extender, you're looking at it as a way of, here's a box that you can hook up to your TV if you can figure out how to hook the red cable to the red cable. That now plugs into your media center PC. You have one remote that enables you to stream all the media from one PC to any television in the home, etc. So we are looking at some things in that area. Making it generally scalable across any device is much more of an ecosystem and standards body thing that does need to happen to enable that.
Yeah, I think certainly on the handheld side, right, it's probably a very easy thing in some ways, right, to enable on our side because of the compute power that we have. UPnP, you know, is a possible standard that can be used to make that transport happen and export that stuff. I think the issue is really more on the consumer electronics side, right, and what's their motivation and when do they start enabling their devices to be able to, you know, interface with these types of handhelds and export their controls and things like that. So, and that's really a harder one to get some momentum behind, probably, is the consumer electronic folks.
Yeah, a couple of people are working on that standard called super distributed objects. So, is it some standard super distributed objects?
It's not a standard I'm familiar with.
I'm not familiar with it.
It's a standard that we're all going to go and now quickly, you know, rush out of the room and find out about. Sounds interesting. So thank you very much for that question. I've got a question down here on the right-hand side.
Yeah, I've got two quick questions, I think. First one is not about future technology. It's about simple today technologies, but future strategy. And it's really targeted at the OEM hardware guys in the panel here. Devices tend to have different connectors for power, for data, for USB. When are we going to start to see some empowerment of the devices, the users, the industry, lowering costs by taking and using standard adapters, providing simple things like USB host so that we can start to put out peripherals onto these devices in different ways? I appreciate that Bluetooth is here. I appreciate that there's some convergence and some people are starting to go USB connectors. But why is this an issue?
So let me address that. So today, let me just state, Motorola has gone, and our standard connector is a mini USB. So we've gone to that. It's a modified USB.
USB host?
Excuse me?
USB host?
I don't know on that. It's modified that it does audio. So it's for data charging and audio. And the reason before probably you didn't see that is everybody had a proprietary connector. Everybody did different things through their connector. They enabled it through their connectors, and it also gave a little stickiness, right? If you bought connectors and chargers and everything else, the likelihood of you buying the same device would probably be likely because you didn't want to replace all that. So probably an old way of thinking, and it's not the way we are now. There are standards, and we've adopted a standard. So I think you'll see more and more coming to a standard bus, and a lot of that's being driven by the operators as well. They don't want to carry a bunch of SKUs. They'd rather be able to go out and carry, you know, a few chargers of, you know, one car charger, one wall charger, one travel charger, and go with that. But you'll probably start to see more standardization than you have to this date.
Yeah, I would agree, and I think that mini USB is probably going to become the predominant standard for connectivity and charging.
That's this 5 pin.
Yeah.
Yeah, right there. In the past, in the iPads, right, we had a standard 22-pin connector that, as Mike said, enabled some other functionality like being able to get serial connectivity for people who had RS-232 things that they wanted to connect and so forth. And the reason we haven't gone away from that yet is that, especially in the enterprise, right, they build up a lot of accessories and peripherals that are built around connecting through that interface. And if we just break, right, and go to something else, then that breaks everything that they've got already. So we're working to make a transition over to something more standard like mini USB, and I think you'll see that happen very soon for us, and I think that's the way the industry's headed.
Thanks. I hope to see industry standards there soon.
I just wanted to also ask, Bert and these guys here, I mean, USB host, standard connector, something I'd say pretty standard in the tablet form factor, right?
Yeah, it is. I wanted to point out something about the power issue that you mentioned. With respect to different OEMs in the mobile space, at least in the you guys say mobile one way, and it strikes me as handheld. Mobile to us is the PC space. But anyway, with respect to AC adapters, you see different sizes, different connectors, and part of that's a safety issue, and part of it's a preference issue. So if you just look within ThinkPad, we've got 56-watt adapter, which controls all our X-Series products, 72-watt adapter, which controls most of the other products. And the reason is we've got customers who want the smallest adapter possible that can still power the PC and all the peripherals they want to hang off of it. So we've got that diversity there, but then you've got a safety issue that you have. You can't be working with different vendors' adapters that you've never tested. You can't verify whether it's going to safely operate or it's going to blow up the adapter or cause a fire. And there's all those kinds of safety issues and certification issues with the government. So that's kind of why, at least from a power perspective, you don't see convergence in the power adapters.
The second question that I want to throw in is open more to everybody's thoughts. WiMAX is coming along, or similar technologies to WiMAX, and I don't think anybody, I didn't catch the early part, I don't think anybody's a carrier in the audience. So I'd be curious as to how, when, and what impact you see WiMAX coming onto the scene and its impact in the mobile space, and maybe on carrier relationships and partnerships that challenge many of us as well. Thanks.
So I'll take that. So WiMAX soon, trials starting now in the next year, where cities will be wired. Can make a huge impact in what we do and how we do it. I mean, just a huge pipe. WiMAX, 802.16. So basically, it's broadband over cellular, or like cellular. I shouldn't say over cellular, but like cellular. You'll see a huge impact to what's going on today. As far as how it impacts operators, and this is just my opinion, I think what you're going to see is you're going to see operators own it, and the reason they're going to own it is because they own the towers. And there's a big push now to not let people build new towers. So if you own a tower, you're pretty well set and that you're going to be involved in it to go forward. But I think that's going to make a huge impact in the way we communicate here. It'll probably take 5 years before it's rolled out, but you'll see trials in the next 2 years that are, like.
When to mobile?
When to mobile? As soon as the trials are starting. The mobile device will be the device that goes with it.
That's not what I understood. That it's going to hit fixed base locations first. That the radios and the devices are a real challenge. So
the only challenge, well, I shouldn't say the only challenge. Biggest challenge, just like anything, we make seamless mobility devices today that roam in and out of networks, and the biggest problem you have is battery time when you're in a local area network, and the transmit powers are just so much greater. So it's going to be, there'll be big clunky devices like 3G when 3G first came out, but you're going to see mobile devices that are going to take it, because the big thing about it is mobility. You're going to be able to go from site to site, hand off, come in and out of networks, and that's going to be the big push for WiMAX. I mean, you have it today. If you're stable, why do you need WiMAX? You already have it. You have 802.11. There's no reason to deploy 802.16 if you're not mobile.
So I would agree in general with the timelines, trials happening fairly soon, in probably 5 years before it really gets rolled out in any sort of broad sense. But I would sort of disagree on the small handset being the first targets. I think it's the last mile wireless broadband kind of connectivity you'll see first, to the home or to, maybe notebooks, kind of stationary, if you will. The mobility piece is probably further off. A lot of that's going to have to do with the operators, right? If they're going to accept the WiMAX as one of their solutions. They've made huge investments, right, in 3G. And so how does that play with those investments, and what do you do with the towers and the coverage and so forth? That's why I'd be particularly interested to hear Derek's opinion on it, since he talks a lot with the operators.
Yeah, I will comment.
One of the things that the mobile industry has done well since its inception in the early 80s was something that many people probably don't realize. When you're driving down the road, you hand off from Tower A to Tower B to Tower C and so forth. And you're doing that at about 70 or 80 miles an hour when you're on the highway for people that drive slower. But that handoff is an important exchange of really technical information from one handset to the tower and then back to the handset and so forth. CDMA, for instance, can do multi-soft handoffs between the towers, and they can talk to multiple towers at once. GSM's getting there with the next version of UMTS and so forth. But WiMAX, if it can do that well, then I think it can start in 5 to 10 years probably, challenging what a traditional operator's technology is. Right now, I see that, my humble opinion, sees it as really a broader stationary WLAN, basically. That's your 802.11, but it just reaches further. I don't see it doing high-speed handoffs. I'm not involved in the technology forums and the specifications, but I don't see it going to the route that, let's say, CDMA or GSM Tower does now. So I think that's going to be an inherent challenge, and you will need it for certain scenarios. Probably will happen on tablets, in my opinion, faster than it will on a mobile device, just because your tablet's more stationary in most cases.
And if we look at, if I spin that question around a little bit, we've had people mention today, so we got some CDMA, we have GSM, we have Bluetooth, we have Wi-Fi, we have, somebody mentioned NFC, maybe we have WiMAX. There are probably another 16 different radio protocols that are coming, and does every one of those need a separate radio? Do you want all of them? Do you want to have all of them on at the same time? Do you want to hand off from one to another? There are a ton of usage scenarios that have to be defined around those as well, which will probably make it much more challenging. On a laptop, maybe you get a WiMAX card at first and you plug it in, and now you enable data that way. On a device, you don't really have that luxury on a very small form factor device. So how, there's going to be a time frame here where all of these different standards for all these scenarios, if I want data everywhere and I want it at these different data rates and I want it all the time, which one wins and which one eventually ends up in a device.
I'd like to ask a question to the audience. How many people out there are currently using a 3G service of any kind, like 100 kilobits or more? So it's significant penetration here. Okay.
Interesting.
It surprises, well, okay, there might be some error in the question and answer. It surprises me that as many as like half of the people here seem to be subscribed to it. It wouldn't surprise me if it turned out that those people were only getting 14 kilobit.
Well, so you have Verizon with DO. That's considered 3G.
Yeah.
So
that's it's the only one that I've actually been able to use at that level.
U.S.
Yes.
Yeah.
In the U.S. So were those all Verizon? Can we see a show of hands?
Show Verizon hands.
Verizon specifically. Market research. EVDO, yeah.
Okay,
okay, that's
trim the number. Okay, so there's some.
Make one comment on broadband wireless. If you want broadband wireless, then you should move to a more advanced country like Australia, where we already have good providers.
Excellent. Stringent immigration requirements, though. So I think the gentleman up here on the left, legs must be killing you by now, sir. So if you just dive in with your question.
With devices ranging from wristwatches up to tablet size, I would gladly give up color for a 300 dpi black and white monitor display.
Interesting.
Something grayscale or black and white.
Okay.
Something very crisp.
You're not an operator, obviously.
So that's an interesting question. I mean, let's think about that in terms of what is driving. What is driving the kind of requirements? You say like a color screen in a device, and I remember that HP, formerly Compaq, used to carry an iPad product which had a black and white screen for a while. So from Jim's point of view, interested to hear about what drove that as a product, and then why we don't see those devices now, and then Mike, from your point of view, just share your experience with the operators and what's driving color screens. So Jim.
Yeah, so you're right. I mean, we had a couple of black and white or grayscale products in the past under actually first under the Aero product line. One of the things that enabled was a thinner product, And then in the iPad line, we actually had, an equivalent of the 3600 in a black and white version, and that was really to hit a lower cost point because, color screens are more expensive. But I can tell you that those products did not sell right compared to the 3600 color products, and so what we saw was no demand for, grayscale or black and white products in these types of.
No, I love color. It's just that my eyes aren't quite what they used to be. And reading text on a LCD monitor is tedious compared to reading a book.
Okay, so you're
300 DPI laser printed printer.
Okay.
You're
talking about
it's a lot easier to read.
contrast and.
Yeah, I would submit that that's not really the resolution that's limiting you. It's more the optics. And yeah, we're working on that. It's slow.
So you want to share any more about what you're working on, Bert, or are we going down a?
Well, just active matrix liquid crystal technology has come a long way. It has come lately. It's been more focused on how to get the display to display movies well, and so light on dark. And you've seen things happen recently, like people are starting to specify what they call a glare screen, so that it looks more like a television than a piece of paper. That's all kind of gotten in the way of where you're looking for. But one of the big things that I've been pushing on is just matching the color and the brightness of ambient lighting. And so really what OEMs need for that, and you can have a backlit display that looks like it's reflecting the light if it's at the right brightness and at the right color balance. If white looks like the same white as is being shown on it. Okay, so basically simulating a reflective surface is something that requires having a sensor and doing the right things with that sensor, and it's something I've been working on, but we haven't really been able to get a broad, easily adoptable solution yet. But I'm committed to it, so give us another couple of years.
And Bert, tell me, how about the hinges on those kind of screens? How are they?
Oh, funny you should ask. Well, just talking about convenience, okay, the weight of a PC is a big issue right now. But one thing that's in the tablet PC market, there's been this, okay, this is the best yet, I swear, but there has been this awkwardness of how easily can you get to the keyboard if you put it in slate mode. So then it's like, well, why don't I just close the lid? And then when you try to use the pen in combination with the keyboard, you've got this floppy thing out there. And something that Bill G showed at WinHack, I think, this is a hinge that I was involved in the development of, and Acer is working on this. And so the access of the keyboard when you're in a slate mode, it ought to be this easy, right? And so, that's a simple thing, right? And then, there the system turns on, right?
Do that again, Bert. That was kind of sexy.
That's a simple little thing, right? But it's one of those mechanical issues that is part of our integration of this technology. So yeah, it's just like that, to get to the keyboard, and then, to go back into tablet mode. So, look for that from Acer, I think in just a few months.
Great, that's awesome. So we have a gentleman here who has a question.
I have two questions. Second will be real quick. The
Okay.
first is centered around the fact that I can count on one hand the number of Windows mobile devices that I can purchase in the US compared to with what's available in Europe and Australia and other places, and especially a lot of the stuff we're seeing coming out of HTC, which ends up being the stuff from O2 and T-Mobile Germany and other devices. What can be done to bring more of those Windows mobile devices here to the US?
It's a great question. So I certainly have some ideas, but Derek, do you want to start?
Yeah, I think I can help there. I think Europe got a little bit of a head start, but I think you'll see, especially this holiday season, that you'll see a lot more devices being offered within the U.S. And they're going to be very sexy devices, similar to what Mike has. Sexy devices that do a lot more and a lot better adopted. But one thing, to answer your question, one thing that I think can help is the adoption of it in not only the business but in the consumer space. And I think the folks in this room are probably members of that community that can help there. So solutions that run on it that are very sexy solutions that can really generate money for not only the person writing the application but for the operator as well. Those are the things that I think will drive your next generation of devices. And we mentioned a couple of messaging is proven over the last 12 to 24 months to be
one big ARPU generator for operators. But media, for instance, coming up is probably another one that can really be tagged onto and go. You know, we got to remember that when we hold up a device like this that can do EVDO speeds that are similar in a downlink to your cable modem, you could do a lot of things on that device, and I think it just needs to be utilized. There's a lot of power. It's just not, the solutions aren't just there yet, and I think folks in the room could probably help with that.
We have a lot less device subsidization in our as categories as well, so that's bringing those devices to market.
Just to add to that, I'm global marketing, so I go to all the regions in the world, and you look at EMEA, especially the Europe regions, and HTC is just done a wonderful job. I'll compliment them publicly, but they've done a wonderful job of taking a platform, spinning it for different, so what you see with Orange and Vodafone and O2 is basically the same device. They reskin it, maybe put a different home screen on it. They've done a wonderful job of doing that and appearing, multiple devices. The issue you get, and you mentioned the U.S., is it's still slow that people think, this is something that sells. Again, the operators here in the U.S. are very consumer focused. They aren't enterprise focused. They aren't even prosumer focused as much as they're consumer focused. They look at, it's a business case. I can get a Razer in, or I can get another Windows mobile device. And what they're going to do is they're going to run for the ones that they think they're going to get the most activations. There are a lot of studies that have gone on that says that the Windows Mobile is a great ARPU generator. So that is starting to change, as you say. They're seeing that the people who use this are their heaviest users. They're going to use more voice, more data, because it's easy and it's accessible. So you'll see a change to it, but it'll be it'll be slower than I'm sure a lot of us would like.
You said you had 2 questions?
Second question is, you said you were going to be showing some devices that haven't been announced or shown, and I'd like to see them.
So I think, I don't know if we want to go down. Everyone wants to show the device that they've brought with them to show. Start with Derek.
Yeah, I'm a guy that doesn't just carry one device just by the nature of what I do. But I got permission from Nextel to flash this device. This is a Motorola i930 device, really special device. It's got not only a pretty sexy form factor, it's a little bit big, but it's got push-to-talk integrated onto the device. We're excited to see this come out. It will be out very shortly. And I think this will be an interesting addition to the portfolio of Windows Mobile, just having push-to-talk on the device that can do different things with it. This device has something like 5 or 6 radios in it, so when we talk about RF integration, this can also travel over in Europe as well. So it domestically works on Nextel's network, and then in Europe works on GSM. Pretty sexy device. I also want to show a couple of things these have been out for a little while now. This is a media-centric device. It has media buttons on it, play, start, stop, so forth. This was available in Europe, but real thin form factor, made by HTC. Very sexy device, I think, as far as look, style, and functionality of a vertical solution like a Windows Media solution. And then I don't want to steal any more thunder from my colleagues down the line here.
So next down, I think, is Mike.
No, I like what I do, and therefore I'm not going to show you anything that isn't announced. I want to go back to a job on Monday. So.
But I think I'd love to see the queue again.
Yeah,
it's really
so we have
super.
The queue, which is, I'm sure you've probably seen it before I even knew I was making it. And if you want to, I hear there's probably some of them for sale on eBay. So if you want to get early samples, search eBay. But no, it's a beautiful device. I don't know if you saw it earlier. I believe it was displayed earlier in the show. I'll be here for a few minutes after this if somebody wants to take a look at it. But got to catch a flight. So
When can we get one?
When can you get one? Great question. We're in the process now of working with operators around the world on approval cycles, and we're getting them in the lab, so it's not far off.
Have any of them announced?
Again, another question around the operator thing. Can you give us some figures as to how many devices are sold through operators versus how many devices are sold through grey market back channels, other channels? And that's changing.
So I'll tell you, I deal, and I'm a little different than HP. I deal totally on a subscriber basis. What we sell is we sell basically through operators. I mean, we have distributors who sell it, but basically they're sold with activation. You can buy devices without it. We typically, and not intentionally ever support gray market or black market. So the devices, some might go into a distributor network in Asia and might show up here. But for the most part, ours are through operators. They definitely don't get sold into a region by us that doesn't have operator approval. It's nothing that we put a device out there and somebody could put a SIM card in it and then get on someone's network. That's not in our philosophy, and it'd be counterintuitive to our partnership relationship with the operators. So, we're very, very, very operator focused, as you probably could have deduced.
And it also depends on the region, as you know. In Australia, it's far more common for the device to be sold separate from the contract, right?
Yeah.
I've seen, the device in the stores there. Right, absolutely, yeah. And the same in Asian countries as well. But certainly the market, here and to the similar extent in Europe is very much operator driven there, and those are the people who really can own that relationship at the moment. So very much regionally dependent.
Yeah.
So Jim.
So I'll have to sort of plead the fifth, like Mike did, on really unannounced products. The closest I can come is the 6500, the mobile messenger, which hasn't been officially launched or announced here in the U.S. yet, but is shipping in Asia and in Europe. We've got about 15 or so operator certifications in those regions. We do sell a lot of generic product in those regions, in Asia and Europe particularly, that don't go through an operator channel necessarily. We do have some that go through operator channels there. Here in the U.S., it's almost exactly going to be the opposite. Almost everything's going to go through a direct operator channel. We will offer it direct or generic, but almost everything here, actually North America, I shouldn't say just U.S., but North America, almost everything will go through an operator channel.
When can we get one of those?
So you'll be able to get one of these next month. But I didn't say that publicly. Right?
Nobody heard. I wasn't listening.
I've seen them on expenses right now, $65.15.
Oh yeah, like I said, we're selling them generic in Asia and in Europe, and so you can get them there, no problem.
And that's a great point as well. Somebody asked, how do I get devices that aren't released? And there are retailers who sell product globally online. Expansis is one great example, and they carry iMate products, usually SIM, unlocked, as well as HP and a whole bunch of other stuff. So if you're a developer thinking about choosing a device and you want to get one early, that's always a great place to call into. It's actually where I get a lot of my devices too. So, Bert.
Well, this is going to be, in terms of PCs, is going to be one IBM PC versus another.
I think, but all you have to do for me is just show that hinge again.
What I want to make sure of is that anybody who hasn't felt an X41T, hasn't had it in their hand, should just come up here and check this thing out, because it's really a great tablet PC. It's by far my favorite so far.
So why don't we let Jeff just
Reach
talk
people
about
along on this one. Well, this is actually unannounced. It'll announce next week. It's the Z60T. This is our first widescreen product that we've ever done. It's a 14-inch wide node. It's actually the lightest 14-inch wide on the market, or will be when it comes out next week. It's the first one with integrated wide area networking. This actually has EVDO from Verizon. It's the first one in the industry that'll have that.
Yeah.
And a lot of other features that you'll see that are kind of a departure from what you've typically seen in a ThinkPad. A lot more media focused, better speakers, stereo speakers on it. Got an SD card reader. Kind of a nod to the fact that people like to take these home at the end of the day and use them for personal reasons. Haven't typically focused on that in the past. We're really starting to get more into a balance between work and lifestyle. And for that reason, you're also, for the first time ever, seeing something that's not black on the top. So,
Does it have a Windows key?
It does have a Windows key.
Good job. Good job.
Yeah, first time ever for Windows key as well. We're on the Intel Pentium roadmap, so we do go up to the max speed there. I think we've got 2.13 up to 2.13 gigahertz Pentium M. We do go all the way down to the Celeron space. Max memory on this is 2 gig.
So I guess I ought to show something too. So I brought a couple of things with me. If you'd called into the booth, the Windows Mobile booth this week, you'd have seen these devices on display, but with their batteries out. But I'm lucky enough to have some with batteries in. So the one we have here is codenamed the HTC Wizard. It's a Pocket PC form factor device with a slide-out keyboard. So it's got I think it's a 35 key keyboard there. It's got built-in Edge, built-in Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, 240 by 320 screen. And I can honestly tell you, if there's anyone out there who knows me and knows my preference for devices, you'll know that I'm not a big fan of, or haven't historically been a big fan of pocket PCs. I'm European. I guess we just seem to like, small, tiny phones. This is the first pocket PC I can honestly say I've used for more than, a day or 2 days as a phone. And, I just love this thing, writing email, doing messaging on it. It's absolutely fantastic, and it has the 5.0 software as well, so that's pretty cool. It's codenamed the HTC Wizards, and it's, I think, actually Expansys will be carrying it fairly soon. I don't have an exact time frame, but showing this to those guys, being all impressed. I thought I had a brand new phone. This one came straight from the factory to here. And they were like, oh yeah, we've got that, it's coming, as though I forget what the model number is, but it's coming fairly soon. So you'll be able to get that there. It's GSM, by the way. Correct. There's one called the Apache. If you've seen the product, the iMate Jam, which is it's slightly smaller than this, very kind of regular rounded rectangle. And there's one of those now which has a slide-out keyboard, similar kind of idea to this one, where the keyboard slides out from behind. And then this, I think, is a really interesting product. This is an evolution of the Typhoon, which is the, you would know as the SMT 5600. And it's smartphone. And it's got, as you talked about, the media buttons across the front here, so it's a great media device. I think the most interesting thing about this device, this one, is GSM, but it has built-in wireless. So I've actually been able to use this week here on the wireless LAN in the convention center as a phone as well. And of course, it's got this super crisp VGA screen. I wish QVGA screen. So I encourage you just to come up and have a quick look at this and just see how beautiful that looks. And of course, you can imagine that getting the battery life up on this, I would imagine, was a particular challenge for HTC, because obviously it's driving an extra 1.5 times number of pixels or something. So that's the devices I have to share. So with that, this one's codenamed the Tornado. We've had it on the stand here this week, and again, to Derek's point, about seeing more products in market. You've seen here some of the products that are just on the kind of verge of coming out. I think you'll see, towards close to the holiday season, a lot more devices. You'll see devices from Jim. You'll see these kind of devices on the market. So it's going to be a really interesting, certainly next 6 months to a year for our business, and then just some cool devices coming there. I'm a tablet user, and I'm going to be bugging Bert for one of those devices with the cool hinge. So that's great. So thank you all for coming. I think we've had a good discussion today. I've learned a lot. And have a safe trip back. Thank you.